Ah! I was so scared that I trembled and backed away, feeling nauseous. But I accidentally stepped on a leather shoe. I turned around and saw Elias, the illusionist who had just performed on stage. He was very handsome, only 25 years old, but already hailed as the greatest illusionist of 18th century Europe. It was said that the girls chasing after him stretched from Milan to Venice. Elias embraced me, gently patting my back and reassuring me, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid." I finally calmed down a bit and pointed at the box, asking cautiously, "Is that my sister inside?" Elias nodded, then shook his head. I was completely confused. "Have you heard of the ship of Theseus?" he asked. "No, I haven't," I shook my head. Next, he took out a chair, had me sit down, and gestured for me to take a few deep breaths. Because what he was about to tell me might be more shocking than any horror story I had ever heard. The name of this story is The Ship of Theseus. In Greek mythology, there was a ship that could sail the seas for hundreds of years. Any damaged part of the ship would be immediately replaced with a new one. This process continued, with old parts breaking and new ones being installed, until none of the original parts remained. So, is the ship that eventually remains still the same ship, or is it a completely different one? I looked into Elias's wise eyes and shook my head. He continued, "I believe it is still the same ship. Just like humans." I tilted my head in confusion. "Like humans? What do you mean?" Elias then spoke slowly, sending a chill down my spine. "This box is the ship of Theseus. When a part of the box is cut off, it is replicated and placed in front of the original box. Until that person is chopped into pieces, dismembered, and scattered to the winds, she will be reborn ahead. The new human will replicate the original's appearance one-to-one and inherit all of the original's memories. This person will not know that they were replicated, they will believe it all to be a magic trick." After he finished speaking, I felt a chill run down my spine, as if I had suddenly fallen into an ice cave. A living person, like the ship of Theseus, is dismembered, chopped into pieces, and reassembled with new parts to become a new person. And he believes he has merely experienced a magic trick. I covered my mouth in horror and asked, "So my real sister is dead, and the sister I know now is a clone?" Elias nodded. "You could say that, but what's the difference? A clone that perfectly replicates the appearance and memories of the original. What's the difference between that and the original?" I was trembling with fear, unable to respond, and just wanted to run home as fast as I could. This place was too terrifying. It was like the executioner of hell. But just as I reached the front door, I heard Elias' voice behind me. "Miss, one day in the future, I will prove that my conclusion is correct." I shouted, "Whatever," and ran toward the darkness outside the door as fast as I could. Outside, it was snowing heavily, and the roads were covered in thick ice. I slipped and fell as soon as I stepped out. At the same time, a carriage sped past me, splashing me with snow-covered water. I burst into tears, feeling so wronged. It was already scary enough, and now my butt hurt from the fall, and I was covered in snow-covered water. How unlucky could I be to have all this happen to me at once? Just then, a person walked toward me. "Miss, are you okay?" I looked up and saw a face as sharp as a knife. In the darkness, his sharp eyebrows turned white in the snow, but his eyes were bright and black. He was as beautiful as an ice sculpture. When he reached out to help me up, I saw his full face. But I dared not look anymore. Because he was Elias, the one who had been studying props backstage at the Illusionist. "M.O. Ja? Weren't you inside?" I asked in surprise. He scratched his head. "You know me?" My body began to tremble again. As Elias had said earlier, clones could only inherit all the memories of the original before they were replicated. He had no memories of knowing me, so he couldn't be Elias. He must be a clone of Elias from some point in time. Theseus Elias. But Elias himself was still alive and hadn't been dismembered. How could he be replicated? Elias helped me up, brushed the snow off my body, and escorted me home like a gentleman. I took the opportunity to examine him closely. Although he looked identical to the original, his demeanor was completely different. The original Elias was like a serious scientist, while this copy of Elias was gentle and considerate, like an elegant gentleman. On the way home, he would let me walk on the inner side of the road and even take off his cloak to keep me warm. He was completely different from the original Elias. But according to logic, he should have inherited everything from the original. Did he not inherit the original's personality? I couldn't figure it out, so I asked him what was going on. He told me he was the product of Elias's new experiment, named Elliot. The ship of Theseus method, which involves shredding a person and then rebirthing them, was too cruel, and the audience had grown tired of it, so it would be phased out soon. Instead, they opted for separation. Separating the two sides of a person. The illusionist Elias is his work persona. And the Elliot by my side is his personal persona. So you're making another version of yourself work for you? I asked in astonishment. He smiled, you could put it that way. Soon, the genius the illusionist's personal persona, Elliot, fell in love with me. He was handsome, kind, considerate, and always knew how to make me happy, never once making me angry. I felt so happy. About half a year later, we had a passionate night together. I assumed he would propose soon. Thinking about it, I couldn't help but laugh. But a few days passed, and he still hadn't made any plans. I asked him, why won't you propose to me? He looked troubled and told me something. He didn't have the money to afford a wedding for me. I was surprised and asked, aren't you the magician who performs on the street every day to make money? He turned red, stammered for a while, and finally told me that Elias hadn't given him any money for a long time. Seeing his upset mood, I held his hand tightly and whispered comfortingly. Dear, it's okay. We can get married even without money. We can just skip the wedding. As long as we're happy after marriage, I'm willing. But he pulled my hand away and said reluctantly, I don't want that. Sophia, I want you to live a wealthy life. I sat down beside him, hugged his head, and comforted him, then we can earn money together and work hard for this little family. Elliot sighed and smiled bitterly. Then he made a request. Go help me steal Elias's equipment. We can perform magic tricks to make money. What do you think? As long as we have that equipment, we can become great illusionists and make a fortune. Then we'll be wealthy members of high society. We can buy a farm, build a few villas, and live like wealthy gentlemen and ladies. He looked at me with eager anticipation. But isn't that wrong? I hesitated. My upbringing had taught me that one shouldn't steal or take what isn't theirs, everything should be earned through one's own efforts. But he swore, once I have the money, we can get married and live happily ever after. Dear, don't you want us to be together forever? After much hesitation, I nodded. All right, I'll try. A week later, I went to Elias' magic show, looking for an opportunity. He was surprised to see me, then delighted, and invited me on stage to assist him with his magic trick. You won't dismember me and put me back together again, will you? I whispered to him as I stood beside him. He leaned close to my ear and whispered back with a smile, of course not. This magic trick isn't bloody at all. It's totally cool. So I trusted him completely. He had me stand in the center of 4 machines, which resembled 4 streetlights arranged in a diamond shape around me. As he flipped the switch, the machines suddenly released a high-voltage current, surging toward me at the center of the stage. In the next second, countless dazzling currents swirled around me, shimmering in every color. To the audience, I looked like Zeus from Greek mythology. I was overjoyed, feeling like everything was magical. If I could take these amazing magic devices back with me, Elliot could become the greatest illusionist in the world. We could live a good life. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. At that moment, Elias walked slowly toward me and whispered a sentence. I know why you're here. My heart stopped for a moment. Had I been exposed? He waved his magic wand and shouted to the entire audience. The moment of miracles has arrived. The audience held their breath, waiting for the next miracle to unfold. I panicked and tried to scream for help. But my head spun, and the images before my eyes began to blur. I saw the entire audience standing up, screaming, cheering, and applauding. But I couldn't hear a single sound. Only the pounding of my own heart. Finally, I blacked out. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying naked on my bed at home. Ah! I jumped in surprise and quickly wrapped myself in the blanket. But seeing that everything around me was safe, I relaxed and felt relieved. Although I was curious about how I had gotten home, at least there were no bad people around. Looking beside me, there was a naked man lying there. It was Elliot. A strong sense of security washed over me. I hugged him tightly, almost crying. Darling, I missed you so much. He held me close and patted my back. After a while, I calmed down. I couldn't help but excitedly tell him about today's magic trick. Darling, today I saw Elias's new magic trick. He made me stand in an electric current. It was so cool. He asked me, was it nice? I smiled happily, it was amazing. Once we get the equipment, you can perform it for me every day. After saying that, I burrowed into his arms, wanting to cuddle with him for a while. But then I caught a scent that wasn't his. His eyes, his nose, his features, everything about him was the Elliot I loved. But his demeanor had completely changed. He had become the murderer Elias. I felt a chill run down my spine. Because at that moment, I was lying naked in bed with a murderer who frequently dismembered human bodies. And I was lying in the arms of that murderer. I wanted to escape, but given our current position, it was impossible to escape. So I dared not show any signs of distress, instead desperately hiding my fear and going along with him. He held me tightly in his arms, kissing my neck, and asked, Darling, do you love me? I was trembling with fear, tears welling up in my eyes, and I lied, yes. But then, he said something that made my scalp tingle. Then, let's get married. What? I sat up in shock, my lips trembling. Isn't that too fast? Even though you look exactly like the Elliot I love, you're a completely different person. How can I marry you? He looked at me intently and said, Trust me, I'll make you happy. No, I can't accept that. I hugged the blanket tightly and trembled as I replied. I wanted to run away so badly. I wished Elliot would appear at that moment to save me. But no one did. No one came. Elias, seeing my fear, let out a sinister smile. Then we won't get married. Let's go on a trip instead. After that day, I never saw Elliot again. Over the next few years, Elias took me around the world. He had made a fortune as an illusionist, so we went to many distant places. The Louvre in France, Prague in the Czech Republic, the Northern Lights in Finland, the waterways of Venice, Lake Baikal, Ulaanbaatar. But no matter how beautiful the places were, I felt suffocated inside. Because the person beside me was a mad scientist, a murderer who could perform magic by dismembering and dissecting living people. Every night before I fell asleep, I desperately hoped that when I woke up, I would see Elliot. I hoped he would hold my hand and say, Dear, I'm sorry for what you've been through. I'm here to save you. But he didn't. The 56 letters I sent him have all gone unanswered. Not a single one was returned. I even began to doubt whether he was still alive. Had he already been killed by Elias? At the thought, a chill ran down my spine, and I moved further away from Elias beside me. I don't know what his purpose is in treating me this way. But I'm certain that one day in the future, he will kill me. Just like how he dismembered countless magic partners in the past. I couldn't escape, because he was always by my side, monitoring my every move. This life was suffocating me. The sun rose and set, the moon rose and set, and swallows flew south and then returned. Time passed year after year in my growing fear. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed. On this day, Elias and I arrived in an unfamiliar city in Italy. Originally, the city was small and quiet. However, it was said that a fireworks festival would be held there in 2 days, so the streets were filled with vendors selling fireworks. Elias and I wandered around the streets, killing time. When I turned around, I saw someone in the crowd. She looked exactly like me. It was as if she had been copied. I saw her face from afar, and my curiosity got the better of me, so I chased after her. But when she saw me, she ran away frantically. Seeing her like this, I became even more certain that she was hiding a secret I didn't know about. So I chased after her even more vigorously. Finally, we made our way through the crowd, across streets and roads, until we reached a deserted alley. She trembled all over, taking steps backward, while I closed in step by step. My instincts were right. I was certain I was about to uncover some shocking secret about her. Who are you? Why do you look exactly like me? Why are you running? She clenched her teeth and didn't answer. I thought she was startled, so I walked toward her gently. Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. But, just when I was 5 steps away from her, she suddenly pulled out a knife and stabbed at me. Ah! My mind went blank, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I dodged frantically and managed to avoid the knife. But she wouldn't give up, grabbing the knife again and lunging toward me. It's all mine. Why? Why? She screamed angrily. I didn't understand what she was saying, but she had a knife, and I dared not confront her. I could only flee for my life. But behind me was a dead-end alley. There was no way out. You can't escape. I lured you here on purpose. She laughed eerily, her hair hanging loosely, resembling a demon. Why? I held my breath, backing up step by step. Because I'm going to kill you. She laughed maniacally and lunged toward me. And I had nowhere left to hide from that knife. At the last possible moment, a gunshot rang out behind her, shattering the years of silence in this small town. I saw a red dot appear on her chest, trickling down in a thin stream. Soon, blood flowed like a river. She stared in disbelief at the bullet hole in her chest, slowly uttering 4 words. Cherish it. Before she could finish, she collapsed to the ground. After she fell, Elias was revealed behind her. Elias was wearing a black trench coat, its hem fluttering in the wind. Elias. I was so terrified that I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hotel room. My shoes had been taken off and neatly placed by the bed, but my skirt remained untouched. I knew it was Elias who had brought me back. Over the years, he had treated me with respect, never crossing any boundaries. But the more he acted this way, the deeper my fear grew. As a man, he had taken a woman around the world but had never slept with her. He wasn't stupid, why would he do something so self-destructive? There must be an ulterior motive. But after 10 years of pondering, I still couldn't figure out what he wanted from me. Perhaps it was an even more cruel magic experiment? Like the ship of Theseus? And then there was the woman who looked exactly like me. Why did Elias kill her? Could it be to silence her? He was afraid she would reveal some secret, so he killed her. But what secret? I'm going mad. Just then, Elias suddenly knocked on the door. After getting my permission, he walked in holding a bowl of ginger tea. Drink it quickly, it'll replenish your blood and energy, he said. I asked, why did you kill that woman? He didn't say a word, just lowered his head. I knocked the ginger tea onto the ground, picked up the broken pieces of the bowl, and placed them on my wrist. What secret can't I know? If you don't tell me, I'll slit my wrists. I stared at him intently, and with a sudden jerk, I cut my wrist open. He finally spoke. Do you remember 10 years ago when I invited you on stage to be my magic assistant? I nodded, I remember. That was the day Elliot told me to steal his magic equipment. That was the day I never saw Elliot again and began living with Elias. He spoke slowly, you only saw the first half of the magic trick before you fainted. What about the second half? I asked. After you fainted, a duplicate of you appeared behind you, the woman you saw today, he said. I was speechless with shock. He paused, then continued, I killed her to deal with the aftermath of the magic trick. This world never had her in it. After saying that, he stood up and walked out of the room, leaving me alone. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Really, is that it? That reason wasn't enough to convince me. What was he hiding? Elias took me around the city for a few days, and we were about to head to the next city. We were leaving early tomorrow morning, so I packed all my luggage tonight. On the last night, I stepped out of the inn to watch the annual fireworks festival. The innkeeper told me that tonight, a famous magician named the Illusionist would be performing in the city. Since Elias took me around the world, I haven't seen a magic show. So, upon hearing the innkeeper's words, I eagerly went along. The carriage took me to the area near the city's magic stage. It was a huge square that could accommodate over 1,000 people. The buildings on both sides of the stage were lit up in various colors, welcoming the upcoming celebration. From afar, the area in front of the stage was already packed with people. So much so that as soon as I stepped off the carriage, my shoes were crushed by the crowd. Suddenly, a dazzling firework erupted into the night sky. As the firework fell, I saw the handsome figure of the illusionist emerge behind it. It was Elliot. Elliot, who had been missing for 10 years. Standing in the crowd, I watched him on the stage, tears streaming down my face. Elliot, I miss you so much, I really do. Why didn't you ever write back to me in the past 10 years? I wanted to rush up to him, but the surging crowd made it impossible for me to move. I shouted loudly, but my voice was drowned out by the crowd's cheers. Finally, the performance ended. I pushed my way through the crowd, desperate to reach him. At that moment, he saw me too. He paused for a moment, then waved frantically at me. Elliot, my Elliot, this time I'll catch you. But we were separated by the crowd. Before we were torn apart, I heard him shout, tomorrow. Tomorrow. The church. The church. The surging crowd tore his voice into shreds. I immediately understood. Tomorrow, he would be waiting for me at the church. Back at the inn, I immediately suggested to Elias that we leave a day later. He initially refused, and we had a big argument, but he eventually gave in. After all, he was wealthy and had plenty of time. He didn't need to worry about a day or two. The next morning, I woke up early, applied my best lipstick, put on my most beautiful dress, and hurried out. I was going to see my beloved, the one I had been thinking about every day. I was going to see the one I had been separated from for 10 years. Thinking of this, I was so excited I wanted to cry. Elliot, I'm finally going to see you. I have so much to tell you. Where have you been for the past 10 years? When I arrived at the church where we had agreed to meet, there was no one inside. I walked around inside, filled with anticipation. Then, a diary appeared on the ground. Who dropped this here? I picked it up, intending to check the name to find the owner. But the name written in the signature section was a name I knew all too well, Sophia. I felt a chill run down my spine. That was my name. This was my diary. But I've never written a diary before. Before Elliot arrived, I sat on the bench and began flipping through it. The date on the first page was 10 years ago. Today, Elliot proposed to me. I was so happy. But he said he didn't have enough money to marry me. I comforted him, saying we didn't need a lot of money, just enough to get by. But he said he wanted to give me a happy life. So he asked me to steal Elias's magic equipment. I went on stage as Elias's magic assistant. Elias conjured up a dazzling display of electricity, like Zeus. When the electricity faded, I saw a woman lying on the ground who looked exactly like me. Was she my clone? After the performance, Elias gave me all his equipment and asked me to pass it on to Elliot. I was speechless. I never expected the magic equipment to come so easily, without any effort. Now Elliot could use these tools to become the greatest illusionist. He'd have enough money to marry me. I was so happy. After reading the first page, my heart was racing uncontrollably. This was the diary of the other version of myself I had seen that day. According to the diary's description. So I was the clone? No, I didn't believe it. I couldn't be a clone. She must have made it up. I covered my wildly beating heart and flipped to the next page. The date on the second page was 9 years ago. Elliot is truly a genius. The audience says his performance style is funnier and more humorous than the previous Elias. Of course, this doesn't mean he's smooth talking. This has attracted even more audience members, and our ticket sales are getting better and better. Our savings are growing steadily. I believe that in another year, we'll have enough money to travel around the world. But as he became richer, he grew colder toward me. He even refused to mention marriage. What's going on? Is it true, as others say, that men change for the worse once they have money? No, I believe he's not that kind of person. The third page was from 8 years ago. Elliot drank again today. He came home drunk and started causing trouble, even hitting me. I don't know why he's become like this. He wasn't like this before. He used to be gentle, considerate, and always knew what I was thinking. But now he's a complete jerk. I just asked him when we were going to get married, but he stammered and didn't say a word. I asked him again, saying we've saved a lot of money, why doesn't he mention marriage? As soon as he heard the word, money, he flew into a rage and hit me. I must convince him to reform. Page 4, 5 years ago. Over the past 2 years, he's hit me several times when he was drunk. And today, I finally couldn't take it anymore. Because I found out that all the money we earned was gambled away by him. All my previous fantasies have turned into an empty dream, like bubbles bursting. How could I have fallen for such a person? He's a complete jerk. Page 5, 3 years ago. Why? Why is this happening? It turns out Elliot isn't Elias's clone at all. He's Elias's twin brother. And the one who truly loves me is Elias. Elliot said that his brother fell in love with me at first sight. He wanted to get his brother's magic equipment, so he pursued me and treated me so well. He just wanted to date me so I'd ask Elias for his magic equipment. And I thought his thoughtfulness was all because Elias told him to. Elias knows everything I like. It turns out Elias is the one who truly loves me. No wonder he's changed so much. He's been a jerk from the very beginning. Elias, where are you? Can we meet again? If we can, I'll do anything to come back to you. Page 6, 2 days ago. I heard that Elias came to Italy. I must find him and return to his side. But I heard that there's already a woman by his side. Could that woman be the one who was cloned from me back then? No, this can't be. All of this was supposed to be mine. You took everything from me. I'll kill you and take your place to return to Elias's side. Elias is mine. After reading this diary, I burst into tears. No wonder that woman said to me before she died, cherish him. It was everything she had longed for but could never have. Suddenly, Elias's kindness and care for me over the past 10 years flooded my mind. He just wasn't as eloquent as Elliot, so I was afraid of him back then. And I fell in love with Elliot, who showered me with sweet words every day. I truly regret it. Why did I treat him so badly over the past 10 years? Why did I always keep him at arm's length, wasting his genuine feelings? If I could go back, I would spend the rest of my life happily with him. But is there still a chance? I looked at the silver blade at my throat, feeling as though I had fallen into an ice cave. Dear, I finally found you. I heard Elliot's cunning voice whispering in my ear. Elliot tied me tightly to the bench with a rope and began to tell me a story. Long ago, there was a genius called the illusionist. His magical talent amazed his entire family from a young age. As he grew up, he inherited all the magic of his family and became the greatest illusionist in the world. Until he was 25, he fell in love with a woman at first sight. For her, he gave up everything he had and handed over all his magic equipment to his twin brother. Then he retired from the world and traveled the globe with a clone of the woman he loved. His brother took his place as the illusionist. Do you think his brother was happy? No, he wasn't. The younger brother gained endless wealth and fame, but he always feared his older brother would return and take everything away. He worried for 10 years, living in constant fear, unable to sleep. One day, he discovered his older brother's presence in his lover's diary. Fearing his older brother would reclaim everything, he decided to kill him to eliminate the threat forever. He knew his older brother had no weaknesses, except for that woman. So he devised a plan to kidnap her. But that was something he gave to you, I exclaimed angrily. So what? It's mine now, and I want it to stay mine forever. Elliot roared. I sighed and said sadly, give up. He won't come. We just had a fight this morning. At that moment, the church door swung open. A beam of light streamed in from outside. I saw Elias, who had been with me for 10 years, wearing a magic cloak and holding a magic wand, walking in with long strides. It was as if he had walked out of the light. I'm sorry, I had something come up and I'm late, he apologized to me. At that moment, I was crying uncontrollably. I knew it. You came after all, Elliot smiled and looked at his brother. Let her go, or I'll kill you, Elias said coldly. I won't, Elliot gritted his teeth in anger. Why do all the magic props in the house belong to you? Why do I never get anything? Just because you're the older brother? Elias replied, because I'm willing to sacrifice everything for magic, and you're not. Elliot sneered, everything? Including Sophia? Before he could finish, he raised the gleaming knife and lunged toward me. Shape-shifting. Elias's figure suddenly vanished. He reappeared in front of Elliot and swung a punch. But Elliot also used shape-shifting, appearing behind Elias. Brother, you haven't used magic in 10 years. You're slower now. Elliot grinned maliciously, thrusting the knife toward Elias's back with all his strength. Elias was startled and quickly used water flow transformation. The knife pierced his cloak, but his body turned into a stream of water, flowing across the ground. In an instant, he solidified again, grabbing Elliot's wrist and trying to make him release the short knife. Elliot remained calm, extending a third hand from his chest, striking directly at Elias's face. Elias was hit by the punch, stepping back several paces and coughing up a mouthful of blood. I never expected you to improve so much in 10 years. Elliot replied with a smile, thanks to the magic manual my brother left me. Before he finished speaking, he performed another illusion, appearing in front of Elias in an instant. But Elias remained calm, casually removing his magic hat. From within the hat, countless pigeons flew out. He pointed his magic wand, and the pigeons obeyed his command, pecking at Elliot's eyes. Elliot was flustered. He ignited a ball of fire in his hands and threw it at the pigeons. In the blink of an eye, they all turned into roasted pigeons and fell to the ground. Meanwhile, Elias took advantage of the moment when Elliot was casting the fireball. He flew out his cloak, which seemed like a sharp blade, slicing Elliot's arm. But you still have to call me brother. You can't beat me, Elias said, crossing his arms confidently and looking down at Elliot. The cloak spun back and landed on Elias's shoulders. Next, Elias began to dominate the fight. He performed one dazzling magic trick after another, forcing Elliot into retreat. Admit defeat, he asked. No way. Let me show you my new magic trick. Elliot wiped the blood from his mouth and shouted angrily. As he spoke, he spread his arms wide, and all the tables, chairs, and benches in the church rose into the air. The next moment, they all crashed down toward Elias. Elias laughed. Levitation? That's nothing new. I've been able to do that for 10 years. He waved his magic wand, and all the furniture came to a halt in midair. I also know the art of levitation. How about that? But before he could finish, he froze. Because Elliot had taken advantage of the moment when Elias was using levitation to teleport behind me. He pressed a knife against my neck and laughed maliciously. Yes, you won. But you lost. Elias froze and hurriedly shouted, don't hurt her. Let's talk this out. Elliot sneered, there's nothing to talk about. Elias pleaded, you wanted my life, didn't you? I'll give you my life in exchange for hers. Elliot was taken aback. Bro, are you crazy? Elias smiled calmly. He whispered, someone said the same thing this morning. Hearing those words, I burst into tears, my heart aching as if it had been pierced. Elias, don't fool yourself. I don't love you. You don't have to die for me. I screamed at him with all my might. But he nodded, someone said the same thing 10 years ago. 10 years ago? Did I say that? He laughed, I'm the illusionist. Besides these tricks, I can read minds. 10 years ago, on the day you were born, cloned, you lay naked in my arms. I asked if you loved me. You trembled and said yes. But I knew what you were thinking. That was the first time I held you. I always thought we had so much time ahead of us. I never imagined it would be the last time. Goodbye, my love. I watched his cloak turn into a blazing flame, enveloping him until he was consumed by the fire. It was as if he had never existed. Elias was dead, and Elliot was gone. I was left alone in the church, staring into space. Later, I left as well. I used the money he left behind to travel the world again. I wanted to revisit every place he had taken me to over the past 10 years. Every time I arrived at a place, I imagined his every move from the last time I was there, and it felt as though he was right beside me, caring for me and protecting me with every detail. But he was dead. That Elias who loved me so deeply, he was truly gone. No matter how I tried to convince myself otherwise, he was truly and utterly dead. Today was the last day of my world tour. After circling the globe, I had finally returned home. I went to the auditorium where he had performed his magic trick for the first time and sat in the audience, lost in thought. That was where we had first met. But now, it was covered in dust. An illusionist emerged from behind the curtain. You're back. I've been waiting for you. It was the deceased Elias. I rubbed my eyes to make sure I wasn't dreaming. It was real. Tears streamed down my face as I ran toward Elias on stage. I asked him, aren't you dead? Why are you here? He embraced me tenderly and said softly, do you remember when you were taken away that day? I arrived a little late. I nodded tearfully. He smiled and said, in that moment, I found Elliot's magic equipment. The one that could emit those cool electric currents, the absolutely amazing one. Then what happened? I asked. Then I cloned myself. The current me is the cloned Elias, loving the cloned Sophia. I couldn't stop crying, holding him tightly in my arms, unwilling to let go. He asked again, "Do you remember the question I asked you when we first met?" I shook my head again. Just like 10 years ago when he asked me that question. He tickled my nose and smiled, telling me a few words. "I think I can prove now that my theory is correct. The ship of Theseus, even after its parts are reassembled, is still the same ship. No matter how many times I'm copied, I will always love you the same. Forever and ever, unchanging. Love will last, forever."